Einstein says you can live your life as if nothing is magical, or you can live as if everything is magical. And I'll take the magical.
Me too. If you're thinking me too as well, this episode with Toni Van DeMarel is going to be one that you will love. Toni is a yoga therapist and a spiritual hypnotherapist, and this is such a great conversation. Welcome to the Miles to Zen podcast. Conversations shaped by curiosity, creativity, and connection. I'm your host, Shannon Miles Halliday, and this show is where we explore new possibilities and embrace the wild, beautiful, ever unfolding adventure of being human. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Miles to Zen podcast. I'm so excited today to have Toni Van DeMarel with us. And Toni came into my world, I think, in probably 2020, 2021, through her work with Avalon Spirit. And I always knew that I wanted to connect with Toni, and it was never the right time. And then finally, it became the right time last year, and we had a fabulous session. And so, Toni, I'm so pleased to welcome you to the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Shannon. It's really exciting to be here. I'm really glad to connect. And it does seem like the time is right.
Absolutely. So I would love it if you could introduce yourself in a way that people who may not have any background in what we're about to talk about can quickly grasp.
Sure. I think the simplest thing, I do a few little different things. And as I was explaining to you, I do believe they're all doing the same thing, just through different avenues. And what we're trying to do, of course, is find more of us in everything that we do, finding out our truth coming from who we are and reminding us of who we came here to be. And the easiest door in, I would say, is for people to understand is that I'm a yoga therapist. So that's coming in through the body, getting to befriend our body and getting to know our body. And I also am a spiritual hypnotherapist. So a clinical hypnotherapist, and I really don't do much traditional hypnotherapy anymore. In fact, I don't do anything. I do spiritual hypnotherapy. So helping people through the medium of hypnotherapy, helping them connect to their guides, the in-between state, alternate or past lives. And pretty much there's no limit on that at all, which is very exciting. I also read the Akashic Records for people. So that's another way of connecting to spirit, only that would be through me. I always describe the Akashic Records as if somebody is interested in Paris, then I will tap in and I will get information from Paris and I will share that with the client. Spiritual hypnotherapy is an immersion. So that's where you're in Paris and you're navigating Paris yourself. And I also do another technique, another therapy, which is called brain working recursive therapy. And that works with changing emotional and behavioral responses at the neural pathway level. And again, we're getting blockages out the way so we can become more ourselves. So that's kind of me in a nutshell.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. And you know what's funny is I had a recent guest on, Dr. Gay Hendricks, and we were talking about his experience with Ram Dass. And isn't it Ram Dass who said we're all walking
each other home?
Yeah. But so you say that came to me. And so you're helping people walk themselves home to their most authentic self and that place inside.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, everything, the only thing that is constant in our world is change, right? So that usness is also changing with every experience we have, every conversation, every book we read. We're changed and we're shifted. So our navigating that through different avenues to really learn the Shannonness in this world, and like coming from your Shannonness and everything, and without judgment, and with this kind of softer curiosity rather than I should do this or I should do that, but really coming from what feels right to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I have written in my calendar as a reminder here and there, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no.
Yeah. And
that's something I would have dreamed of thinking of years ago.
Yeah. And this is the process of, living our lives. And, most of us spend a good deal of time people pleasing or trying to accommodate people. And the wonderful gift of aging is that we start to really advocate for ourselves. And we start to notice that when we're doing things that don't feel aligned with us, then it gets really clunky. And something we may have done 20 years ago and not thought anything about because we were not as aware as we are now, suddenly we can't just go do the thing that doesn't feel right to us.
Right.
And that is such a gift. And the more we can lean into that and become ourselves, I really believe we become advocates for everybody else trying to do the same thing.
Just yesterday, or was it the day before, I wrote a little Post-it to myself to remind myself of just that. And I wrote, I will just show up as me. And if they resonate, fantastic. And if not,
yep. And that giving ourselves permission to be ourselves is huge. Because again, many of us live in a society where we're told to bend to other people, to outsource our authority to other people and trust other people over us. I mean, even if you take it to the basics, even going to, say, a yoga class.
Yeah.
And doing what you feel right doing, and the teacher being a guide, but not there. It's not Simon Says, right? It's not, lift your right leg and then you lift your right leg. It's really that inner authority of, oh yeah, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do this on my terms with my body and how it feels right to me for as long as it feels right to me. And when we're in especially a class setting or when we're with other people, we're so hyper aware of expectations and we land those expectations on ourselves. And that wonderful gift of age, and experience, and you probably see it in your kids too. I see that my kids have more inner authority now at their age in their 20s than I ever had at that age. And this is a wonderful thing. And I really believe that as we build awareness and consciousness rising, the more the kiddos that are getting born right in this moment are going to come in with even more of that. I show up, and if they resonate, great. And if they don't, that's okay too. Right? It's a them thing, not a me thing. I'm just being me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Toni, I'd love for these podcast conversations on Miles' End to really feel like a coffee date. And I think we feel that way already. And I think it's a tea. Is it a tea date in your case? Are you a tea?
Yes, tea.
Tea.
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to jump in, and we've already described a bit of what you do, but how did you discover this world? What was Toni doing before all of this really fascinating stuff that you're presently doing?
Well, I grew up in a household with a mom who is quite magical. And she is,
You were born into it.
Yes, she talks to the trees and has always encouraged me to be my best self. And speaks up for herself and is not a wallflower. And so I grew up, and she's a writer. So I grew up with her stories about fairies talking and animals talking to me. And that's just how I received the world. And then when I believed that we were here as a classroom. And then when I was 24, my dad died. And he'd been sick for a while. I was not afraid of him dying. I was actually thinking, oh, we'll be closer because we won't have this physicality. Because I was living at the time I was living in Germany. He was living in the UK. And it didn't occur to me that it was going to be much of a problem. And then he died. And I'd come across death before, but he just wasn't there. And it kind of destroyed all of my magical thinking.
You're like, wait a second, this is not how this works.
Right. Because I was actually quite excited that, firstly, he was suffering a lot. And I just was thinking that we would be closer because we would have a connection that was not just physical.
Yeah.
And then he was just gone. So I was like, well, clearly I've been wrong all my life. And I dove into philosophy and started a philosophy undergrad and was like, there is no God. You can't, if you can't prove it. And we had, I had 3 kids under 3 at the same time. So I got really busy.
Wow.
And we were moving a lot. And I came to a time, and it was about 20 years ago now. We were living in Denver, and I was having just a really hard time. And I didn't know why, because from the outside, I had the most amazing husband who I adore. We had 3 amazing children. We had, the house and the life and all the rest of it. And there was something that was feeling so wrong to me. And I would call my mom, and I was upset. And my mom's somebody who really grounds me in who I am.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what's wrong. I did the doctor thing. Like, surely it's a chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
And I was fine. And Roger, my husband, was kind of like, he didn't know what to do with it. Kind of like how, maybe we should just move again. We'll move. And I was like, no, this is a me thing.
Right. I'll still follow me to wherever I move.
Right, exactly. I'm taking this with me, but I felt like this is not enough. And then there's that guilt that comes in, like, from the outside, I have everything. So I have no right to feel like this. I'm very privileged, and yet it still feels like it's not enough. And I got signed up for a Hay House weekend. It was like a 4-day weekend. I wasn't really interested in it. Roger was the one who signed me up for the classes.
Wow.
And he always buys me a ton of books every year. And a couple of days before I went, I picked up the top book, and it was Many Lives, Many Masters. Brian Weiss. And I'd never even heard of the guy. And Roger only got the recommendation from a colleague. He didn't know anything about it either.
And so, as a quick sidebar, I was given this book, well, mostly given it. I was in the room when someone was giving it away, and I said, oh, hey, I would like to read that book just 1 week ago, just before the chat with Toni. So back to where you were.
So I opened this book, and I couldn't put it down. And for some reason, I can even feel emotions coming up now. It just felt like truth to me. And so in the morning when I spoke to Roger, I was like, this book is like, it's everything. It's truth. I don't know how to describe it. And he was like, who is the guy? And I'm like, oh, it's Brian. His name's Brian Weiss. And that sounds so familiar. And I had a workshop with him on the full Friday, which was like in 2 days' time.
Holy smokes.
And
you can't make that up.
You can't make it up. And so, long story short, that weekend shifted everything for me. And all of a sudden, I got back all that I had left when my dad had died. And then I felt like, okay, this is the path. This is it. I felt Toni again. And the hypnotherapy, because in that workshop with him, we had 4 past life regressions in that workshop. And I remember viscerally the first one, I didn't get a lot, but I got enough, and it changed everything. I was like, I know that I was this person. And I didn't really know much about it, but I had such a intense experience of it. And I was like, I'm in, 2 feet in, back into the game. I bought all of his, at that point, it was CDs. I downloaded them all to my kids, like they were like, 5, 6, and 7. And I downloaded it all to their MP3 players. I listened to his recordings over and over again. I also, in that weekend, had a workshop with Denise Lynn, who is also a regression practitioner. And that was it. I was back in the game. And I then found Michael Newton's books on Life Between Lives. And then when I went for my first LBL, Life Between Life session, that was when I was like, okay, I need to do this. And all of that time between that, I'd been working in art therapy, and then I'd dove into yoga therapy, which allowed me to connect more with people, even more so than through art, because of the language of it and because of the belief system, the wisdom in it that you openly speak about. And then I found the Life Between Lives, and I knew that I wanted to do that too, because it blew my mind. And that changed everything for me. And from then on, I went and got certified. I knew I didn't want to do traditional hypnotherapy, and I wanted to do spiritual hypnotherapy. And that's what I do. And now I teach hypnotherapists how to do spiritual hypnotherapy as well. And I love it. And the Akashic Records is another, like I said, another door into the same thing. It's a different experience. But essentially, we're doing the same thing, which is connecting to the everything to get questions answered and to feel connected, just like in your session.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. That's a really cool journey. When you were a kid, you had, I mean, it's pretty funny because it sounds like your mom writes the stories that I also write, although they haven't turned into book format yet, but my family sure hears about them. Did you have any abilities then come in, or did your mom, was there any sort of mediumship abilities or
I remember my mom's
visiting
book.
relatives?
Not so. I know that, for instance, my grandmother had throughout her life, she would have premonitions of things. And that was spoken about. And my
Yeah, that was
mom,
the same as my grandmother too.
yeah,
But generally she did that through reading teacups.
that's exciting.
I know. But then she shut that down when she got too many things came true that were not great.
Okay.
And she's like, no.
Yeah. Well, it is so interesting how there are these coming through lineages. And I see it in the Akashic Records all the time. I see like these abilities coming through and weaving into a certain generation and then it getting shut down. And that the ability is still there and it weaves onto the next generations too. But of course, we have free will. So just because it's there doesn't mean we use it, right?
Right. So watch out, world.
Yeah.
Miles to Zen might take a shift. So you, sorry, I interrupted you there. You said that your grandmother.
Yeah. And my mom spoke about, my mom's very like intuition based as well. And that was just normal. And I can't say that I really had I've never really had the ability to see in real life people who've passed. But it was just known in our family that if you felt something, then it was true. So,
Wow.
and my mom is a big influence, still is. She's still, really supportive of things and doesn't need everything explained because she's like, if that's your truth, then that's fantastic. And that is something that not everybody gets, I think. My dad was more of an engineer. Um, so different approach. But that trust, and it's that if you feel something, trust it above everything else. It's that inner authority we talked about earlier.
Wow.
And
What a fabulous foundation she gave you.
yeah, and that I remember one thing that she said to me over and over again. It's the if it feels right to you, even if everybody else in the world feels different, doesn't mean you're wrong.
Wow.
Yeah. And what a gift, right? And sometimes I have railed against it and then I come back to it and been like, "Ah, yes, so true."
Right?
And it's the same as your post-it note.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, so what do you think happens when we pass? So what do you think happened with your dad? Why was he offline for so long? And then did he come back online? Were you able to
did.
connect?
He came back that weekend that I
Okay.
went. He came back with a bang as well. And all of this time, I had been thinking him gone, but I was looking in the wrong places. I was expecting him to be right over my shoulder, and he was in everything. I just hadn't seen it. So, what happens when we die? I don't think it's any different from really when we're here, only our physicality changes. So, even when we're here right now, and you're Shannon and I'm Toni, we're the same, right? We are part of everything. And when we die, I really truly believe we are, as our body gets, cremated or placed into the earth or whatever, and we live on within everything. And I don't believe that it's not like having your dad, knock on your door. But we have to start to get more subtle with our awareness, and we all have it within us, I think. And it's the same. It's, whether somebody passes or whether it's a spirit guide or whether, we're accessing everything, it's all right there. But we do have to believe it's there. So, and that's the thing, right? It's like that we live in a world where science proves something, and because it's proved, it then is. But we forget that it always is, and then science proves it.
Right. Right.
So
yeah.
I believe the $10 million question, like what happens after we die? That's the sense I have of it. Having seen so many sessions and reading people's records and having my own experiences, I believe it's all right there. We get attuned to it one way or another. And of course, you have people who are naturally inclined to connect, of course, and we utilize those people. Like, you go to a medium and get those connections through the medium because they're attuned to it. But I do believe we all have the ability, if we exercise that choice. And for some of us, it becomes easier to others, just the same as, anything else we do. Some people, like, learning to read is really, really hard. And other people, they seem to like skip through it and it's super easy.
Yeah.
I do think we all have that ability. And it's a case of whether you're interested in it, whether you feel like it's going to add to your life. if it's going to enhance what it is that you do. If you're not interested in it, then that's fine. It's not for you, right? But yeah, I believe it's all there. And in the sessions that I do with people, I know it's all there because, like with your session, your spiritual hypnotherapy, it takes about 25 minutes to help a client get to the place where they have access to everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's not me, that's them accessing what they have the ability to tune into.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Because you have to, I guess, get into that place where you can be a frequential match.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you want to talk about it in brainwaves, then we're just I'm helping the client shift into a different brainwave state. That's all hypnotherapy is. And then when you're in that theta state, which is that in-between state of just when you're waking up and just when you're going to sleep, that you have a foot in both worlds.
Yes.
And your conscious mind, which is still present, it's just a little bit more in the background, and you're a little bit more open to what. Go ahead. Sorry.
Wasn't it Edison who used the trick of like holding a penny or something? Yeah, that's who was it where the expression the penny drop came from? And they would hold the penny and try falling asleep. And because they were looking for new ideas, and that's where they knew they would get them, is that place just between wake and sleep. And when the penny dropped, they'd wake up and they'd write down whatever ideas they had, because that's when the best ideas came. And I can't remember who was that did that.
I've actually
that was where that expression came. I will look it up. I had somehow thought that it was like an Edison. I don't know. I'll find it.
But it's all there for us if we're interested in accessing it. And, having an experience like that. And some people have the experiences they're doing something and they get the spontaneous experience, right? Which is the dream, always. Right? And others of us are pulled to this knowing, and we find things that resonate with us so we can experience that ourselves, and that sets us on our path. And the more books we read, the more people we speak about who speak with, who are in the same field of interest to us, and the more we dedicate space in our lives to exploring this, then of course, the more we explore and the more experiences we have. And in that, you're not only making space in your week to do that, but you're connecting to people who are interested in the same thing. And just by being present and by showing up, you're creating an open heart to what it is that you can experience.
Right. So because I remember in the book, The Many Lives, he refers to, or she, so it's basically about this patient of his that he's putting into hypnosis. And they end up talking about Earth, essentially, and our experiences as essentially as a learning. So, and you just mentioned it. So do you feel that Earth is like Earth school and we show up as many times as needed? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Really great question. I believe that all lifetimes, and lifetimes in brackets, right, are learning experiences. So I believe that we have, and this is just my understanding today, tomorrow it's probably going to change. I believe that we have this overarching soul or oversoul that is showing up to learn certain things. And essentially, my belief is that we learn who we truly are, which is that we're interconnected, that we are all the same, even though we're having this experience of separation. And then within that oversoul, we can choose or put into place many different other experiences, lifetimes, not necessarily all on Earth. So alternate lifetimes, I would say, is the possibility of everything. Past lives, I tend to use that word connected to Earth lives. On Earth, we experience linear time. So we tend to think of past lives as before 2026, going back in history. And if you would think about like metaphysics, everything's really happening at once anyway. There's only the now. So past lives, parallel lives, future lives, alternate lives, we could argue that it's all happening at the same time. It's very hard for our brains to figure that out.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like,
Yeah. But yes, each one of these experiences offers a certain learning. And I've seen in many, many sessions and Akashic record readings that you can go to the soul plan and you can go to the oversoul plan. So the soul plan would be what Shannon, before Shannon came into existence, what Shannon wanted to put in place. I normally see the soul plan as like the London Underground. So it's a line with little dots on of the stations. And those dots are significant events, times that you meet people or opportunities. And those are normally things that are going to show up anyway. And so this is Shannon's lifetime, and you showed up to learn certain things, to meet certain people. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but I'm just trying to explain it the easiest I can. And then you have the oversoul, which that Shannon lifetime fits in. It's a station in the oversoul plan, which is, oh, I showed up here to learn this thing.
right.
And then, of course, within all of that, we're getting all these nudges of, Shannon, learn the thing. And we're going to put this in front of you so you can learn the thing. And again, I'm simplifying it because it's not just one thing we come here to learn. And we have free will within that. So we have the opportunity, and haven't we all been here, where something presents itself and we're like, yeah, I'm not going to look at that right now. I'm just going to move on. And then, the plan gets louder and they're like, okay, did you look at the thing? And they're like, no, I'm good. And eventually we get to a place, and I believe that it's just like our podcast today. It's like when the time is right, we are in the energy or the frequency where we can receive that lesson and really sit with it and then move forward with it.
Yeah. And I get that visual of I think it's a beam of somebody looking through this contract. I mean, what was I thinking when I signed this soul contract? Surely I didn't sign up for this or that.
Yeah. And that's what I love about sessions is that, when we're in the humanness of it and it's overwhelming and we don't know what to do and we feel stuck in things, then we can have a session, either an Akashic record reading or a spiritual hypnotherapy session. And then you get a completely different perspective. And you're like, oh, I was butting up against this, but in actual fact, something completely different is happening and I didn't even see it. And then all of a sudden, we are open to things and we see things from that bigger, broader perspective. And it makes it more accessible for us,
Yeah, it takes the emotional charge out a little bit.
But it turns down our thoughts, our emotions, and the immersive experience of being overwhelmed with our senses. And it allows us to see, again, that thread that is behind everything. Oh, okay. Now I see really what's happening in the world.
So are you able to share with us some of the most impactful or memorable or holy smokes moments you've had with the people that you've been doing your sessions with? Like anything like what has happened in the Many Lives book or, these cool moments?
I can, and I will say it's with every single session, there's always a shift, a big shift that is happening. We decide, oh, I'm going to sign up, in 2 weeks' time on a Wednesday and have either a session or an Akashic record reading. And we're like, this will be fun. I have a few questions. But really what's happening is that everything, spirit is nudging you to sign up for this because there's something they want to share. I always often say to my clients, you're excited to get your question answered, but your records or your guides are like, in 2 weeks' time, we have Shannon. There's so much we want to share with her. So when people come up with their questions and intention for a session, it always, and I share this with clients, it always makes me laugh because I think in so many sessions, the guides have said, you think you came up with these questions. We were the ones who have put these questions into your awareness so we can share this information with you. Because again, we tend to think of this is happening outside of ourselves and we're going to have this moment where we can connect to something outside of us, but it's right here. It's closer than our breath, right? And our guides are right here. And the Akasha is happening. It's being, it's ongoing. So the moments in sessions when people have those experiences of, right, I get it now. I'm in it. It's not outside of me. Some of the really significant things that happen in sessions are when people experience having unconditional love.
Mm.
And we walk around in our lives and we connect with the people that we connect with, but a lot of the time we feel like it's on our shoulders or we're having to seek something. And the emotional letting go that you see in sessions where people have this realization, oh, I have this whole team who's here showing up for me. And they're right there. And they've given me now clear tools how to connect with them. And how often in sessions, clients will get really practical tools like do this thing, go to that place, every day consistently and, ask for this. And then this is how they're going to show up for you. This is how you receive the messages. And I hear back from people time and time again where they're like, that session we did changed everything. And now I'm talking to my guides. I'm able to listen to nudges and respond to that. I know what feels right for me. And again, it's going back to your Post-it note, right? I know what feels right for Shannon and I know what feels right for Toni. And I'm coming from that place and I'm doubting it less and trusting it more. And it's those moments and sessions where you see people and people are crying and just so relieved to hear and to feel and actually immersively experience that they are held and supported. And that to me is why I do this.
Well, it's very in the world that we've been raised in the general world, right? Especially I'd say in Western culture where the individual is so focused on that you have to do everything yourself, or there's that not asking for help, the I can do it myself attitude and being very self-sufficient. And so when you're coming from that place, that idea, and especially if you've not been raised in a religious environment, thinking of that God and angels are there to support you, but there's often you have to do everything yourself and you're on your own. I think that's probably quite a block for people to realize that there actually is support there for you.
Well, it's this, we want to trust, but we doubt. So again, it goes back to the can you prove to me that it's there? And then when you prove to me it's there, then I will believe it. But it works the other way around, right? It's like, if you trust, then you receive it. And of course, I'm a big fan of personal discernment, right? We don't want to believe everything that we see, read, hear, and experience. We want that personal discernment of, how does this feel for me? Again, the more I believe we get in touch with our own frequency, what feels right to us, then we can come from that place of, oh, this inner compass, if you like, of, oh, for example, my dad comes to me in yellow butterflies, always has done. And it's that it could just be a yellow butterfly, right? I could dismiss it every time it happens. But the more I lean into it, the more I trust. And because I trust, then I receive that in a certain way. And can it be dismissed? Absolutely it can, right? This is not something that is replicable or provable. But to me, when you feel and receive that and it lands, it's like an emotional land right in your heart space, and you just know. And in the Western world, we don't value that inner knowing. We value the logic of it. Well, logically, how is that your dad? Right? I can't explain it, but I know. And when we move through the world, and I cannot tell you how many hundreds of times I've heard the records say it, which is, when you move through the world and you trust and you flow with what feels right to you, then you become part of this dance of everything, and everything stops feeling so clunky, and synchronicities happen, and you start to see the connections between things, and you're not outside of it anymore trying to look at it, you're within it. And the more we connect, and again, it comes back to your Shannonness, my Toniness, right? The more we trust that, and the more life becomes easier. And then, the records will say again and again and again, when you're wrestling with your thoughts, you're not landing down in that place of knowing. And the place of knowing is, and they say in record readings, they'll literally say, you can do this in the supermarket. You can pick up 2 apples and be like, which one feels right? And just tune into this one and tune into that one and have fun with it. And it doesn't have to be, if you looked at it and analyzed it, then you may pick this one. But the feel of it, you may pick the other one. And it's like trusting that. It's like being in a bookshop and being, logically, this is what I want to look at, but I'm drawn to this one. So I trust that in the one that I'm drawn to, like you picking up that book, or I want to read that one. It's like, I don't know why, but I trust it. And the more we lean into that experience of things, then life becomes a little more flow and a little less clunky.
Yeah, it's like being in the river, going with the flow rather than fighting our way up.
Yeah, we all have, right? That's part of being human as well. And how many times are we trying for something, and because we think that's the right way, and we try and we don't, it's hard, and we're slogging up a mountain, and we're like, no, I've got to achieve this thing. And when we stop the fight, it comes to us in a completely different way. It's always different than we imagined.
Yeah.
But it's always bigger than we imagined as well.
Yeah. That lesson of trying, that one's come to me a few times. The pushing, when you're constantly pushing, and then you realize, wait a second, this doesn't feel good anymore.
Yeah.
Pushing.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we don't put effort in. Often people mistake the flow with, oh, nothing has to be an effort. No, I completely disagree with that. When you are driven to do something from that inner, I don't know why, but I need to be there on vacation. I need to go to that place, or I need to read that book, and I need to go to that, that lecture, and I don't know why. Trust that, do everything in your power to do that until it feels like there are so many roadblocks, right? And then it's just, it's not a case of, oh, is the universe telling me that I shouldn't do that thing? Check in with yourself. And it's am I trying to go about this in a certain way and not looking at there may be a different possibility of getting there?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hard for us though,
Exactly.
right?
Oh, it is. Were there any moments in your sessions that really came as a surprise to you?
Constantly. And it's in especially the relationship area where people come to me and they'll often ask, what do I need to know about this relationship I have with blank? Um, and they've been looking at it through a certain lens. And then either in a spiritual hypnotherapy session or the Akashic Records will show them, this is really what's going on here. This is your contract. And this is how it's playing out. And I remember just last week, I was in a reading and I had a client who had a loved one and they were constantly butting heads. And she was at her wit's end. Like, what do I do about this? Like, how do I help this person who is so resistant? And it's so simple. They were saying you process things completely differently. So she had this incredibly active mind where she could multitask and think about many different things. So she was connecting with this person and asking like 7 questions. What are you doing? What do you want to do? Do you think that this would be better? Do you think, and the person would shut down and they were saying, they really have a completely different way of processing things. So when you ask them a question, really think about what it is you want to ask them. Don't bombard them with 10 questions. Find the essence of it, ask the question, and then allow them time and say, I'd love to, I was thinking about this thing, pose the question to them and say, maybe next week we could really talk about that so they have the time. And it's just, and in her session, she was like, I never thought about that. That's so true. Yes. Every time I asked more than one question, they shut down. And for her, it was life-changing in this. Now I know how to connect to this person. And now, she doesn't feel rejected. It's just that they are different. They process things differently. And it may seem like a really small thing, but it's huge. And I already got an email back saying the experience that she'd had putting that into place changed everything.
Well,
And
imagine, I think that will be so helpful to all our listeners. And already, I think it's just such a great thing for me to reflect on because I tend to think very quickly and a gazillion things at once. And I like to get as much information as possible. And I'm a bit of a all data points kind of junkie. And my family is distinctly not, but I'm expecting them to process the same way that I do. And they're very different. But it's still, and I've known this for many years. But to hear it from that story is really helpful to think, okay, well, I can probably improve in that way. So my husband thanks you, Toni, for sharing that story.
But things like that, and especially when you have a relationship or a situation which is really challenging, and especially after a while, we start to recognize patterns that come up. It may be, 5 different people in our life who react exactly the same way to the thing that we're doing. And having that, oh, do you know really what's happening here is, and they give you the background of it. And all of a sudden you see things. There is a client that I had that with a loved one in her life, that literally they work in different times. So for her time, her normal time, she was a doer, she can get a lot done. And this loved one their time was sped up. So it felt very overwhelming to them. And so when you have these kind of reflection points where you're like, for you, it sounds like you work very quickly on things, like you can process a lot of things very quickly. And if somebody, their time is twice as fast as yours, of course they're overstimulated. Of course they need time by themselves to reflect on things and to just have space to be able to be, because their time experience of time is different.
So explain that to somebody who may be like, what the heck is she talking about? Don't we all have the same time? So what are you talking about, Toni?
So for example, if you and I went to a coffee shop and I turned to you and said, what can I get you? And you're like, you look down the menu quickly and you're like, oh, I'll have, this, that, and the other. Great. You go get a table. I'll order whatever. Right. What this person was experiencing with their loved one was that they were talking twice as fast. Like, what do you want to do? You gonna have a tea? You gonna have a coffee? You gonna go get the table? And they're like, hold on a minute. I haven't even read the menu. And so they're experiencing time differently. And we're expecting everybody to function on the same level, right? It's the same. And I think we've all had that experience when we're also with somebody who can move through things very quickly, especially we probably all experience this within school or college. And somebody's leaping ahead and you're like, hold on a minute. What was that you said 5 minutes ago? I'm still processing that thing. And we assume it's kind of like colors, right? I assume that my green is your green. Might not be the same. We just assume it is. So somebody's time is not necessarily the same. Does that make more sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and like I said, my husband thanks you. With that cafe example. Yeah. It's so true.
What was happening to this person's loved one was they were saying, what do you want to drink? And then this person was like, okay, what do we want to drink? And then they'd say, well, do you want tea or coffee? And they're like, oh, hold on a minute, I haven't even thought about the first one. So now, do I want tea or coffee? Now I've got two questions. And then it's like, well, do you want some lemon cake as well? Like, and you're like, oh, I got three questions. Like, what do I want? Like, and then every time they asked a question, they had the loved one was having to reset and go over that question. Whereas somebody like you, like, do you want tea or coffee? What do you want? Do you want some lemon cake? Do you want to go and get the table? That's a perfectly normal request.
I want to know what's all the options on the menu. Let me look at them all right at the same time.
So it really helps us, like that kind of perspective, although it doesn't seem like it's huge, can really help us move through the world with people that we love and people that we spend time with and people that we don't love so much, in a much easier way. So that's often, especially parents with kiddos or people who parents are going through a hard time, or your spouse has had an experience and you're trying to understand that. And it just helps us take a breath and realize what's really going on rather than the story that we're telling ourselves is happening.
Well, and I think that we so often expect that everybody is experiencing what we are experiencing. And it's not the case. And it's just like how they talk about children growing up in the same house will have a completely different experience. And so your three kids, even though they're close, each one of them would have had a different experience growing up in your house.
Because
And
they're seeing everything through their own lens.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
And so we see things just completely differently.
And what's wonderful is the Akashic Records, or when you tune into the everything from a spiritual hypnotherapy, there is never any judgment. It is just very neutral. This is what it is. And so there's not this, oh, I coulda, shoulda, woulda done this thing. It's just, this is just information to help me move through the world in that flow more. And that can be life-changing a lot of the time. Even just, I've had people who really feel like they're battling something in their life and they're at their wits' end. And that, again, that experience of, oh, you're completely supported in this. You got guides right there, and this is how to connect with them. And this is what they want you to know right now. And I've had people in sessions just completely break down in tears because they never realized that they had so much support. It's that, and you can anchor those feelings in a session where people can come back to those experiences after the session. Right. Yeah. I am held and supported, and I do have help as I move through this. And that can change everything when you feel like you're by yourself.
thank you for that. I would love, there's two things I want to cover before we wrap up, but one of them, you told me a story of how you ended up living where you're living. And it is just the most delicious story. And I love it so much. And I've already shared with so many people. But can you share with us today how you ended up living in Mount Shasta and this dream that you were having, this reoccurring dream, because it's just so delicious.
Oh yeah, of course. It's so back in 2022, I started having a reoccurring dream about a house. And it happened over and over again. And it was so clear to me that I even drew the floor plan out. I even did like a mood board, which I never do, which had aspects of the house in, and I could see the wood and the beams, like there are these big dark beams. And I saw this room that had all this glass around it, and it was green outside, but I couldn't quite see outside. And I would tell Roger about it, my husband, and he's like, well, what magical thing is happening in the house? And I'm like, really nothing magical at all. It was just, we were happy. And it was just my husband and I. And he was like, well, what's happening? And I'm like, literally, I'm like working, and we're just content and really content there. And we were curious about where it was, and I couldn't see outside. But I knew it was green. Anyway, at the end of 2022, I didn't have any more dreams. So I'd written all this down in a journal and just kind of forgot about it. And we did, when we went on a vacation in Hawaii, we were like, maybe this is it. But I was like, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel right. We drove around like on a couple of the different islands being like, is this it? And like, no, it doesn't feel right. Anyway, the end of 2022, I kind of forgot about it, put the journal away. And then my husband was working in the Bay Area in San Francisco. He had to be here for over 2 weeks. So there was a weekend in between. We were living in North Vancouver. And I said, oh, well, if you're there for 2 weeks, you should go up to Mount Shasta. And he was like, I never even heard of it. What's Mount Shasta? And I'm like, the center of the universe. You should go. And he's like, okay, I'll go. I don't know what's up there, but I'll go. So he was booking a hotel. And at the side, there was, my husband really loves real estate. So no doubt that was on his feed. But there was a real estate ad, and I walked past, and I'm like, that that house, that picture right there. Click on it. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm like property and houses, my least interest. But I recognized the picture and it was the house. And I was like we were going through the pictures and I'm like, I knew it all. I knew the layout. I knew the rooms. I knew where it was and how it was situated. And outside it was forest. So this property had 9.5 acres of forest. And Roger was like, what's happening? I'm like, I don't know. It's the house. That's the house that I dreamt of. So he's like, I should go see the house. I'm like, you should go see the house. And so he made an appointment with a real estate agent and he was videoing as he walked into the house and I could describe it all. I'm like in the kitchen's just off there. And you move. It was exactly the same. And it had never been on the market.
Just blew the realtor's mind. Was he videoing like with you live streaming?
He was videoing it as he was walking in, and I was just.
If you were there in his ear telling him.
Yeah. And it just was the house. I don't know what to tell you. And so Roger was like, do you want to put an offer in the house? And like, yeah, I think we should put an offer in the house. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why this is happening, but I trust that I can't unknow this, right? I can't unsee this as the house that I walked around so much in these dreams. So long story short, sorry?
I was going to say, and your husband's an engineer.
He is an engineer.
Pretty logical,
yes,
linear thinker.
Yes, very much so. And he's also really supportive of everything that I do. So I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
And it was his dream house. He was like, he's always wanted to live in the middle of a forest. And so it was, yeah. So long story short, within a week, we were like under contract. And we bought the house, I think a month and a half later. And I went down, it was, I think 4th of December, that he saw it. And I went down when we were already under contract, between Christmas and New Year, and walking in the house and being like, I know this, like, I know exactly this house. And so we took a leap of faith and we're like, I don't know why we need to be here, but we need to be here. And so, yeah, and here we are in the middle of a forest in our cedar house. And yeah, I don't regret any of it. And there's so many things, so many synchronicities, things, happenings that have unfolded since we've been here. And so apparently we needed to be here.
Well, I love it. I love that story so much. And thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And it's that, there were some people who were like, wow, this is amazing. Other people thought we were, crazy to take that leap. But it's, again, it's kind of what we said before. It's like the trusting, right? It happened for a reason. I don't know the whole picture. I don't even pretend to know the whole picture, but I'll follow what it is that feels right.
Yeah. Yeah. And use your discernment, right? This feels right for me.
Yeah.
You're not listening to somebody else say, this is right for you. Go do this. You're like, this feels right for me.
Yeah. And it's that thing of, I don't know how I know, but I know. And that's the piece that is like your Shannonness, right?
Yeah.
You know what feels right to you. And the more we trust that, then the more we live in this magical world that, Einstein says, like, you can live, I think it was Einstein, you can live your life as if nothing is magical, or you can live as if everything is magical. And I'll take the magical.
Me too. Absolutely. And you know what's funny is I normally I ask people in advance to think about some words of wisdom to share, and I realized that I forgot to ask you. And so if you have any words of wisdom to share on top of that, that would be amazing. And if not, you've just shared some very good ones.
Advice or words of wisdom? I would go back to what it is that my mom says. Like, it's, even if you feel like it's right, even if everybody else feels differently, don't assume that you're the one that's wrong, right? Trust yourself. And even if you're not quite sure why, it that leap of faith will take you down a path that you never could have ever imagined for yourself. And I think that's why we're all here. That's to discover that. I feel like, Shannon, when we consider our future, and this is where a lot of, fear and anxiety comes from, right? The future. Is it going to be okay? I have so many clients who come to me with that question. And it's that when you lean into the trust of things, and, baby steps at first, I'm not saying, go, go buy a house straight away, that you dream of, but baby steps, and you start to realize that there is something that is orchestrating this that is a little bigger than you. And when we try and conceptualize our future, we can only conceptualize it from our belief system at this moment with our experiences. But if we open up and trust that we're held and we're supported, and take those, little baby steps of trust, then our world opens up into a world that we couldn't have imagined, but it's bigger and brighter than we ever thought.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Toni. That's so wonderful. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you think would be important? I know that you're coming to this little corner of the planet again in May. You'll be at a conference in Whistler, the Avalon Spirit Summit, I think it's called. I'll put details for that in the show notes. So if anyone wants to meet Toni in person, this is a great opportunity. Or, of course, I'll put your details where people can book you. But is there anything that I've missed that we should include?
No, I don't think so. At the summit in Whistler, I'll be doing a workshop with people where they can learn how to access the Akashic Records themselves, which I think, again, everybody has the possibility of doing that. And the more people who do it, and I really believe we're going to get to a place in the future where everybody is walking around with that knowing. Eventually, that's my hope, at least. And I'll be guiding in a talk on spiritual hypnotherapy and alternate lifetimes. I'll be guiding people through group hypnosis to experience that if they'd like to. So that's fun. And people can find me at deeperpeace.ca. And I'm just really grateful for you for having this chat. And I'm excited.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I'm excited for people to step more into this awareness that they are held and supported. And it's a great knowing.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Toni. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all this time that you've spent today sharing all this fabulous experience and wisdom you have, and sharing the wisdom from your mom.
She's an important person in my life. And thank you for having me, Shannon. It's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to chat to you.
Okay, talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
Thank you for joining me on the Miles to Zen podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, I'd love for you to subscribe, follow, share, or leave a comment so we can keep growing this community together. This podcast was created and produced by Shannon Miles Halliday with original music by Anna Vovziniak.